Good afternoon. Good to see all of you, bright, smiling faces at the end of the day. Very good. Welcome. This Be Bold Now event is the first in a series of programs that will bring attention to the innovative programs and initiatives that faculty, staff, and students at NIU have created in order to move the university forward. Each session will feature a specific topic that is important to everyone involved with the university. The first theme is putting students first. And can you think of a better way to start than putting students first? There are three areas of focus. One is customer service oriented. The second is retention and enrollment goals. And the third is student career success. Now, I'd like to introduce the first of three presentations this afternoon. The first is Mr. Jay Orbik, who is Director of Media Services, and he will speak on the Ask campaign.
And the projector went out. And there we go, thank you. Thank you very much. Here we go. All right, I thought originally this was 15 minutes. I found out it was 5, so we're going to go fast, but that's okay. I like to tell stories with pictures, so here we go. You've probably seen the banners up, but we're going to kind of talk about how did this come from. We started talking about internal marketing in the Marketing and Communications Council when it first came up in 2009. We occasionally talked about internal. Most of what we did was talking about external marketing. Sometimes we talked about internal things. I can remember at one point, just after talking going, geez, you know, if you're just nice to students and help them figure out how to be successful, it's pretty simple. Why can't we kind of drill down on this? But after 5 years of meeting at least once a month, there was no action taken. Nothing came out of it. So what changed? This guy, okay? On my first meeting with Harlan Teller, I talked to him about this, and he was the first person I ever got to talk to that said, this is a good idea, we need to move. Oh, where did that come from? Wait a minute. Oh, I'm not a brown noser. Anyway. So we had a brainstorming session in marketing communications. We came up with, this is not my idea, somebody came up with Ask Me, I Could Help You. But it included students, and that'll come into play here in a second. Basic message, ask me, I could help you. What does it really mean? If you're nice to students, you treat them with respect, maybe they won't leave and go somewhere else. It's just very, very basic. The two main questions we ask the students are, can you tell us some places where you receive friendly and helpful service, and can you tell us some places where you receive less than helpful and friendly service? And they gave us some ideas, and that's where we started from. We also saw that through our leadership conference in the summer, where we were asked to draw pictures of where we see the university now and where do you want to see it afterwards, you see some pictures that this is the senior leadership. Now, this is also a reason why you should fund the arts, throughout the college education. But you could see the Husky Shuffle in there in various forms. The students are just completely lost, wandering around, et cetera. And then where do you want to go? And then on many of these things, we took pictures of all the chart pack drawings. Nice people, be nice, be nice, be nice. It just went through, permeated through everything. So bottom line for everybody, this whole campaign is about retention is everybody's responsibility. It's not just the faculty, it's not just the service folks, it's everybody that works here. Little things you could do. The most time everybody gets their hands on is giving directions, and how many times have you tried to, well, it's over across, and then you got to turn, and sometimes it's just easier to just take them somewhere. I had a parent stopped me outside Swen Parson Hall. That's where financial aids is. Somebody said, oh, it's in financial aids. He stopped me by the entrance to the law school and said, how do I get to financial aid? And I said, well, you go in the door right there, and you turn, and then you go up, and then I said, follow me, okay? And it was going to make me late for a meeting, but the guy was so happy that somebody actually took the time. It's just, there's places you can't find very easily, so it's just those little things. Stop for people and let them cross at crosswalks. Open a door, say hello, say good morning. It's those little things that add up, and one bad experience can negate a whole bunch of good experiences. So it's just everybody, every day's interactions, thousands of them every day could make a change. So phase one, we initially presented to, we went out to those places, good and bad, not going to say which is which. We pitched it to the president with a budget. He said, go for it. After that, we expanded it to 24 people. We had a blitz. We had about 3 weeks to get this and many other things that you saw for the welcome days done. So it's very painless. We show up, we're in and out about 15 minutes, and we're done. So the products. We see the banners outside. We put them in high traffic areas where the students go and where the families go during orientation. Why? Because it's not only important for us to know that this is important, it's important for the students and the family to see that this is important and that we're taking our customer service priorities seriously. So what else we got? We have Ask Me buttons. We've got Ask Me materials on the digital, the dynamic signage that we have going around campus. It's on our websites. There is actually an Ask Me website where we put the picture of who we took and then a little bit of background information so you can kind of get to know who these people are. We have stand-up banners. We've done them for presentations, what was that? Well, one of them, the police chief saw this stand-up banner that we had with one of his officers, and he said, I want to be on there. I want, when people walk in to my building, I want them to see me. And we made one special just for him. He's not on a banner yet, but it's a stand-up in front of his office. It's on bus signs. So phase two right now is expand the scope. We're going out and we're getting more people. We're going to do them 10 at a time. Right now we've got 8. We're waiting for 2 more, and then we send them out and we're going to hang them up. We're going to go now. Extend past Lucinda, going west on campus where that student flow comes out of the dorms, and we're going to reach out to that. It's all about high traffic areas and getting your message out. So here's some more folks that volunteered. Coming soon, I'm putting them on the spot. Eric Weldy, Levon, Jerry Blakemore. I had to twist some arms, and this is at the last leadership conference. I went to these guys after everybody thought it was a good idea and said, don't you want to be like the fun dean? Don't you want to be like the cool vice president? And it's like, okay, I'll do it. But it's important that they see the students see the leadership in this thing as well. So getting involved. There we have our site, niu.edu/askme, and you could do a couple things. You could click and you could nominate or self-nominate. You could nominate yourself. I want my picture on a banner. And there's another button where you could go and you could get buttons. And you can say how many you want, and somebody will deliver them to you, probably out of Brad's shop. They'll ask you to do a little questionnaire, basic questions, so that, what do you want us to say about you when we put you on the website? So the conclusions. The faculty and staff really do take great pride in their work and the help they give to students and faculty, and they appreciate the recognition. I love people like to see themselves and they come back and say, wow, how can I get up there? There's a few that says, why am I up there? But most of them say, can I get up there? Where does it fit in the great triangle of things? Well, it hits everywhere. It hits students, academics, it hits the support services, because the support and academics are where they're really interacting with us. How does it hit the world, the families, and the prospective students? When they're coming on for orientation, and they're coming into open houses and they see people acting friendly, and they're wearing their Ask Me buttons. Does everybody have theirs on today? No? Anyway, you could go on the web and get some, Anyway, so the final thoughts. Great customer service to our students and their families is now our promise, okay? You put your name on this thing, you put your face on this thing, you need to come through. So, it really is our promise. This whole Ask Me campaign is about our promise to give you key customer service. It's a key component to retention, and it's really up to us, all of us, to really strive to live up to our promise. Thank you.
Hello, welcome. My name is Margee Myles, and I serve as the Director of Student Services for the College of Education. And I'm here today to talk to you about a new initiative called the Student Career Success Map. This is a guide to help students figure out what to do and when to do it in order to complete their educational and career goals. It is also a resource for faculty and staff to assist students as they navigate their way through the NIU journey. I'm proud to say this concept came from the collaboration of units from both sides of the house, student affairs and academic affairs, amazing, at the invitation of the advising deans. After attending several meetings and presentations where we heard the perception of advising on campus, we heard faculty and staff express a need to know more about resources, and then we knew the advising dean's retention committee needed to be formed. This group includes representatives from 20 units across campus. While the group this large can sometimes be challenging to find agreement, we did all agree that we need to do a better job of knowing what each other does in order to best support our students. Our conversations included articulating what academic advising is and what units on campus can do to support that effort. We explored the student life cycle and used that to identify stages. We identified issues and stressors commonly faced by students during those stages and made suggestions of what can be done to overcome those issues. And we listened.
Hey Joe, what did you do this past weekend?
I went to an awesome party. You should have come. What did you do?
Yeah, I should have. Instead, I went home for the weekend. I have a difficult time meeting new people and
Oh, sad day.
feel a little homesick.
Why would you do that? You could meet people at parties and have more fun.
Okay, maybe next time. But right now, I think I should only focus on my studies. I will just be here in my room.
Unfortunately, the conversations we heard didn't exactly play out the way we hoped. And we thought, let's help shape those conversations, whether the conversations are student to student or student to faculty and staff. The success maps help specifically identify the NIU programs and services available to help support the student trying to manage a particular stressor. And it goes one step further. It identifies what responsibility the student has, what they can do themselves to manage that stressor. This map is located on the advising page of the NIU website listed under the academics tab, and it includes hyperlinks to the sites of all the programs and services. It will also be featured as a featured link on the student portal. While the map is fairly comprehensive, we will continue to update and modify as needed. And for example, we have already been asked to include information and resources for the off-campus and adult learner population. Our hope is that once more of the NIU community knows about this resource, we will have more conversations like...
Hello, Allison. How are you? Are you enjoying your time at NIU so far?
I'm okay. NIU is alright.
Are you involved in any activities on campus?
No. When I am not in class, I usually nap or watch TV. On the weekends, I've been going home.
I understand that transitioning to college can be difficult.
I've been really homesick. I think if I make more friends on campus, I'll be less likely to go home on the weekends.
There are a lot of resources on campus to help you get involved and feel part of the NIU community. You should look at the Student Career Success Map to get some ideas. I'd like you to explore your options and come back to see me next week to make a plan.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. You are the best academic advisor.
Shameless plug for good academic advising. So while certainly the academic advisors can use this as a resource, the entire community can use it as well. And we have the ability to make an impact on our students and support their student career success. The Success Map is a resource that breaks down these silos that we have and puts the information in all of our hands. There are currently pieces of the map live on the website for you to look at and utilize. And as we finalize this project, we'll be creating ways to message to the campus community its availability and officially activate our first contribution to the Triangle Map. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite to come up to the microphone Dr. Kelly Wesener, Associate Vice Provost of Student Affairs, Dr. Ann Birberick, Vice Provost, and Dana Gautcher, Director of the Office of Student Academic Success.
So good afternoon, everyone. Silence. Come on, this is participatory. Good afternoon. You need to do better, otherwise I'm going to start speaking in French. So come on. So good afternoon. Oh, I love it, I love it. See, it's the teacher in me. Thank you for coming. We want to talk about this project, an initiative that grew out of the Summer Leadership Conference. And we're all sitting around tables, and we're having a great deal of synergy and a lot of positive energy that's flowing. And what emerged from all of that is what my colleagues Kelly and Dana are going to be talking about. This is a collaborative effort. It involves academic affairs, student affairs and enrollment management, and IT. And they all came together to create a system that we are piloting, or we piloted this semester, related to improving student retention. So I'm going to pass the microphone over to Kelly.
So I'm going to talk about the student absence notification system, and as Ann highlighted, this really was a brainstorming session that we had at the President's Retreat, and thought, you know what, we can really try something new and really come together. What's important about this project is that it was a specific retention strategy in the initial weeks of the semester, the first 2 weeks. And we wanted this to be a centralized, systematic approach. We know that there's lots of different retention efforts on campus, but we wanted to make sure that we brought everybody together, we were headed in the right direction, and working together to make sure that we had some synergy and some end goals that we're all working towards. So we wanted to make sure it's a central effort. One of the other things that was important to us is that we wanted to make sure that we had a software system that was going to help support our efforts. So we called IT in, and they were great in helping us develop some of the software systems we needed. We needed a process. We knew that if we could get out to the faculty and to the staff to help us identify students who weren't coming to class in the first 2 weeks, we could do some follow-up. We had 329 sections of 100 and 200 levels classes. We had the faculty do some absence tracking, put it into a database. We then took that database and we designated a contact. We wanted to get to the students at the closest point of contact possible so it would be more meaningful. So what we did is we worked with folks across the campus who have relationships with students. We worked with housing and dining to work with the CAs to do outreach to on-campus students, athletics, chants, military student services, and disability resource centers. All those staffs reached out to folks that they have relationships with or that are in their areas. And then all the other folks landed in Dana's shop with the Office of Student Academic Success. And obviously they did a bulk of the work. The other pieces is that designated follow-up. We had the reach out to the students, we identified the students, we got the information to the offices, and then we reached out. We called them, we emailed them, we had the CAs knock on the doors, do some follow-up. So we had some actual follow-up and reaching out to the students who we knew weren't going to class. That might have been one class, it might have been 2 classes or more, but that for us is a sign that there might be some problems in the first 2 weeks, which is really important. And we just wanted to ask, how you doing? We know you're not going to class or you missed a class. How can we help? Is there something that we can do to help support your academic success? People are always interested in the numbers. Here are some of our initial numbers, just so that you have a sense of the scope of this. So the total missed classes in these section, 2,943. But you can see how we were beginning to track this information. We also, when we did the reach out, we asked, so why did you miss class for those students who we were able to contact? And here's a little breakdown of the reasons why they were missing class. And this is a pilot program, and we know that there's lots of things to improve. So this was our list that we started with. And there are things that we've learned along the way, so we'll be able to tweak these things moving forward so that we're able to have a list that's maybe a little bit more comprehensive now that we have a little bit more experience and knowledge. But this will give you a snapshot of what we heard from our students.
One thing we found in having folks who were connected through a natural pattern with each student is we received some really very honest answers when we contacted students. And I think that going the route of asking the honors office to go ahead and contact the honors students and having student athlete academic support services contact athletes really made a difference, because students were honest in sharing why they missed a class or perhaps why they chose not to attend a class for a certain reason. And we got wonderful, wonderful information. We were also able to help students in very small ways that made a very large difference. Kelly, if you'd like to advance to the next slide. There were several incidents where just reaching out to a student and asking why they weren't on campus or why they missed a class made a very large difference. As you can see, one of our students was in the airport waiting for a flight. We actually talked to several students who were NIU bound, but because of delays or just unfortunate travel plans, they were missing out on the first couple days of classes. Some of them were panicked, afraid that they wouldn't be able to make that time up, didn't know what to do when they first got to campus, and having conversations about coming to campus and reaching out to instructors and faculty and really starting on the right foot was very soothing to people that honestly wanted to be here but for whatever reason could not be. We also talked to quite a few transfer students who just didn't allot enough time. They were used to maybe pulling into their community college or a college of a smaller campus and didn't think about navigating a larger campus, finding parking, and again, simple reassurance and some directions and giving students multiple options on how to deal with the traffic of especially the first couple weeks really helped our students start off again on the right foot. Another couple examples too, it wasn't just first year students and new students we were talking to, but we had seasoned students who have been here for quite some time that also appreciated the outreach. There was a student who was on campus for 2 days and then unfortunately his father passed away rather unexpectedly. And so both he and his family actually really appreciated the outreach, and we were able to work with Kelly and the folks in Student Affairs and Enrollment Management to contact all of his instructors to make sure that when he was able to return to campus that he could do so seamlessly. And then finally, we were able to be very proactive. Yes, this program is somewhat reactionary in the sense that once we found out a student is absent, then we contacted them. But one of our student success specialists in the Office of Student Academic Success made contact with a student who knew from the very get-go that some of his skills and behaviors weren't exactly where he needed them to be in order to start the semester off strongly. So that specialist at that exact point set up ongoing meetings with the student and has been meeting with him regularly throughout this semester just to talk about things like time management and goal setting and prioritization. And that's really helped him and his confidence in being able to tackle his classes.
So what do we hope to learn? When we have gotten lots of feedback from the CAs who did a bulk of the work reaching out to their students, they felt like this was overall a good initiative. This was helpful in them building relationships. It was helpful to the students they were working with. Dana gave you some great examples, lots of anecdotal evidence of positive impact. But we're also pretty honest about what we want to learn and what we need to learn. We want to learn if this early intervention really helped retain students. The rest of the story to this will be as we have some data in terms of GPAs and retention, some of those pieces as we get to mid and into mid-semester and into the next semester. So some of those data pieces are yet to be determined. We wanted to know if this communicated care and contact for our students. We will be holding focus groups with our students and with our community advisors to get some more of this evidence. We believe that has been communicated through some of the things that Dana was sharing, but we want to make sure that we're getting the intent of this and the perception of this is something that we're hoping for. Was it positively received by students? Again, we're going to be doing some of those focus groups. Can we learn from other institutions? We already did a Skype session with Eastern Illinois, who has this program. There are some other institutions that we're reaching out to understand what other assessment pieces they're doing with this. And we'll continue to try and learn from best practices in other institutions that are doing this. And is there value continuing this initiative? We're at the stage where we have enough data to sit down and figure out what are the things that are working, not working, are there things we can combine to not duplicate efforts, and really figure out next steps moving forward. So we're excited to have this information and really to try and figure out how can we best support our students. One of the things that I think all of us around the table are most excited for is really that collaborative piece coming together and really building solutions and really trying to help our students succeed. So thank you for that. And now I am going to bring up a familiar something that's familiar that we've seen a few times today. So I think we're all familiar with this, but I would, I would like to bring to the podium our president, Dr. Doug Baker.
And I'm going to come down. I don't like standing up there. They blow me away. Is that amazing? Thank you, presenters. That is just amazing. I mean, you guys have taken this idea of the triangle and really operationalized it. And you've done this in a very short period of time and made a big impact. It really does blow me away. We didn't really have Q&A between each of the sessions. What questions do you have for any of the presenters? Anybody? Or suggestions?
Thank you, President Baker. The last session, sorry, I'm a bit hoarse. It's pretty obvious that accumulating data is a very important way of trying to understand issues related to retention. When I was at University of Illinois in Urbana in May, I gave a talk about using certain kind of web analytics in classes, and I met some people involved in the predictive analytics reporting framework. Is anyone familiar with that? Yeah. This is something that I guess we could consider joining at some point if we just go ahead.
A little bit. Or Ann, do you want to talk to us about EAB or MapWorks or somebody? Can you do that? Yeah, go for it.
So we have in place, we have understood that predictive analytics can be very, very helpful. So we have in place various things. One is a kind of homegrown system that we developed using through the work of the Director of Testing Services here at NIU. He came up with a predictive analytics model, and he shares that with the advisors for students who are entering NIU, and it looks at a whole set of metrics, and it predicts their success in classes. And so the advisors use this tool, they get it for the new incoming students, and it helps guide them in helping the student construct a schedule. You know, where to look, what to do, are you overloading in one area, you know, how to create a more balanced schedule. And then we also work with EAB, the Educational Advisory Board, and they're very interested in using information that's gleaned from the student information system through their Student Success Collaborative and leveraging that as ways of predicting student success in key gateway courses. So lots of times we often just think that a student is successful if the student gets a C in a class, but that might not necessarily be true. The real success might be that this is a key course and the student really needs to get a B in order to continue and persist in a particular major. So those are just a few examples of how we use predictive analytics and how we're working not only internally with our own systems, but also externally and nationally with EAB.
And we're on the front end of this work, but the initial results, for example, with MapWorks have been very positive, that students participate in that are being retained in better GPAs. Who else had a question, comment? As I'm walking over here, Kelly mentioned we don't have much data yet, and I got curious a couple weeks ago and I asked the registrar to tell me about dropout rates during the semester. So every semester, you know, each week a few students drop out. And so you can see those numbers going. And so I asked him to compare us to last year and the year before. It looks like we've improved year to date, 13% over last year in terms of the dropouts. So that's got to be hooked to all this stuff that you're doing. At least that's my working hypothesis. But a 13% increase is not bad. You know, that's actually a pretty dramatic jump.
It would seem to me that sending out a 3 or 5 question survey weekly to the cell phones of our students, starting a month before they come to college, would really be more predictive and allow us to get involved immediately, if that was something that IT could deal with.
So what would it say? Like, how you doing?
Well, and perhaps, you know, depending on what last week's survey looked like for them, it might be a slightly different version.
You could branch it.
Sure.
Well, that's an interesting idea.
Okay,
and then
quick question. I was just wondering if we all have access to these, or if they're only for certain departments at this point. Should we teach ourselves if we can use these tools, or will there be workshops? Thank you.
That is a wonderful question, and most of these tools are available to people for whom they will help in your work with students. We do require training for MapWorks, and as well as for the Student Success Collaborative and the EAB information. But yes, we want these tools in people's hands, and we want it to inform the time that you spend with students. We know that your workloads are excessive, and this information we really feel can help you make the most out of the time that you do have with each and every student. So you can always feel free to start by contacting the Office of Student Academic Success, and we can put you in touch with all of the different training days we have for different programs.
Just to follow up on the previous discussion, Chris Parker in Assessment Services is doing some really interesting work in conjunction with the first-year composition efforts and looking at the impact that had on retention. And what's really interesting is the tools he's developed to look at that speak to a few simple questions that seem to be powerfully predictive for students' likelihood for being retained or not retained. So yes, we have sort of really some hard empirical evidence that Chris is building on what are the issues that we need to be querying about students to best judge what their attitude is and what their likelihood of retention is.
And Chris, could you give like the 4 things first-year comp did?
Well, probably I couldn't successfully give the things they did. What Chris Parker was trying to study was they had developed a peer advocate program. And actually, I see Ellen Franklin up here could probably tell you better than I could. And I will, to be fair, will note that the retention study he did, these were all things that they had laid on partway through the spring semester. And so the retention study he did not find clear evidence of retention improvement from those efforts laid on through the middle of the semester. What was really, but they will of course now look at things that are being laid on at the beginning of the fall semester rather than the middle of the spring semester to see if there's an impact. But what was really impactful for me in the process was at the same time he was getting really powerful evidence about what is it we need to know about students in order to be able to predict their likelihood of retention.
And to remind you, we were up 5% in retention freshman to sophomore this fall. So even though we had partial semester impacts like through the spring, something happened and we're up 5%. And that's a huge jump in 1 year.
I don't mean to be cranky or anything, but how come the Office of Student Academic Success only has 4 people? I kind of hope somebody releases some money and stuff so they can get more help, and also so they can get things done automated. Like Randy inputted all the students into MapWorks by hand, and it seems like they're the white hot center of some of the stuff we're doing. And so anyways, I just kind of want to say that I think, you know, if somebody is an outsider, as a teacher who's using them, it's, you know, like I had 45 kids that I had to do an assignment, and it kind of scared me to think of 45 kids going over there to interview people. So anyways.
Yeah. That's a good point, and we could point to probably more than that, just one thing of things we need to invest in. And that's why we're putting in a budget process and a budget model so we can see where do we put our money to make the biggest impact here. And if you invest in some of these areas, and let's say we retain 100 students, and I don't want to just make students into tuition dollars, but 100 times $10,000 in tuition turns out to be quite a bit of money, right? It's $1 million. So, wow, we could pay for a lot of stuff if we kept another 100 students. So we need to go through a budget process and a budget model, and Lisa Freeman and Nancy Suttonfield have been working on that in the last year. We're improving that process, and we're going to continue to do that and do a prioritization process for those kinds of things. Not just this. There's a lot of, we've got to look at the order of merit, and this is really an important one. Who's next? You are.
I also wanted to thank you guys for the laptops that came over to FICOM, and the instructors. We really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
What are you doing with them? How you teaching different?
I know that my colleagues are using them. Mine is sitting on my table because I haven't had time to get used to it.
I'm busted. Ask a student, they'll help. I was in the first year comp kind of exit interview at the end of that last semester in the spring, where we debriefed and where we'd had peer advisors in. We'd had more frequent contact with the students. There'd been some training about where the instructor should send students when they're depressed, like the students we saw on the screen and that kind of stuff. And boy, there was a lot of positive accolades. And I think the peer mentors got an awful lot out of it too, making that personal relationship, that personal contact. They really felt like they were helping. So building those vertical families of upper division students with lower division students, I think can be positive both directions in there. Social attachment's huge. Anything from the athletes over here? No? Oh, back here, right behind you.
With regard to services offered to students, is everybody satisfied that we're making the connections with students quickly enough where, you know, assistance can be brought to them? It's a very large number of students, personal issues, over 500, you know, sort of points to a need to kind of, you know, sort of make contact as quickly as possible. Is that an area of concern, that we're still not quite meeting the need as close to the, you know, rubber meets the road as we possibly could be?
That's a great question, and we're this far into it, I guess, on a big scale. It's great we've got some initial data. I've talked to a few of the CAs who have been making these contacts with students who didn't show up to class, and by and large, they've said that the feedback from students has been very positive, like, thanks, I didn't know anybody cared, and yeah, I really do have an issue and I didn't know how to deal with it. But that's a CA with a student. There are a whole bunch of other places that we need to be making these contacts, and these guys are thinking about it. Do you want to add on to that, Dana?
We also have an early alert program that we work with faculty starting week 5 of each semester, just to identify students who are perhaps still having attendance issues and or academic performance issues. Traditionally, for the last 10 to 15 years, there's been about 500 alerts in the fall semester. This year, we had 3,000 alerts. And I'm proud to say that over the course of a week and a half to 2 weeks, our office sought to contact all of those students. We spoke to about 1,200 students on the phone. We left a heck of a lot of voicemail messages. Our specialists are just back to back to back throughout the day meeting with students, again, making sure that they're aware of policies, procedures, deadlines, and dates at the university, that we're connecting them to specific resources such as tutoring. And again, we're working with many, many students on things like goal setting and study skills and tips, and making sure you talk about a vertical family, but also creating a family amongst all of the experts and the resources we have on campus. That's one example. MapWorks is another example. In the 3rd week, a survey launches to students. And so we're getting, I think, a variety of information about our students in different ways. And I think that the trick now is how do we coordinate all of this data to make sure that we're not being redundant in our efforts. We're not, in some cases, maybe overwhelming the same student with multiple contacts from different areas. But I do think that we have good data. It's how we utilize that data in reaching out to our students that's, I think, one of our big challenges right now.
Can I continue? Is that okay? Something that is very striking, and when you look at students today, is that we're living in an environment where students are on mobile devices. They have mobile devices. Many of you have perhaps heard of the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things, where everything is connected to the Internet and governed in accordance with the Internet. I've coined a bit of a phrase, which I don't want to carry too far. It's called the Internet of Students. Students are on the Internet all the time. They're carrying mobile devices all the time. How does that impact the way we deliver services and the way we contact them and the time involved? This is a very important issue. The mobile devices that students carry, how do we communicate with them? How do we make use of the fact that they're on mobile devices all the time?
Margee, this might be a good question with all of the talk about texting students and how we can maximize contacting students.
Excellent.
Way to hand off, Dana, thanks. Okay. The advising has been talking, retention committee has been talking about this a lot in terms of how do we text students and share information with them. The fear, part of the fear though, is that if we start texting them, are they going to react to the texts the same way they have started reacting to the email, which is to not read them? So I think we have to be very careful in how, exactly what Dana said earlier, that we're not over inundating them with the messaging. We have to be very careful and deliberate when and how we message them, depending on what the content of that, the information is that we need to share. So that is certainly a conversation that we're having. I think one of the two nice things I'm going to plug, one is obviously what I talked about today. That's an easy link to the web that students can get at, you can get at, and it's an easy resource to kind of navigate some things. The other thing that we hope to be releasing this spring is a retention app that the students can get on their smartphone and kind of go, I need some help navigating X, Y, or Z, and they can find that information right there on their phone. So that's coming. We're hoping to have that live for you in the spring.
One of the other things that we've been real intentional to develop is a student portal, which is now the community portal, which all of you pass through. We literally have thousands of students pass through this on a monthly basis. So what we've been doing with the student portal is we have a don't forget section that highlights all of the academic and really important, really big deadlines, the billing deadlines, the academic drops, all those things. They're right there, very visible with a click to the calendar. We sometimes, depending on the time of year, highlight services that are available to students. So if we know it's midterms, we might, do the advising center, whatever that is. So we're really trying to use that as a tool because we know thousands of students are traveling through that particular area. So how can we do that in a way where we can gather information, get the right information to students in a timely manner?
So I know we're just a couple steps into these, but we're a couple steps into them, and we're starting to see some initial impact. We'll learn from that, and so I really want to compliment you guys on thinking about the triangle, how do support services link students with faculty, with the outside world, how do we help them be more successful? I mean, we're thinking creatively, we're trying stuff. Might not work, that's okay, we'll try, we'll adapt. Jay, did you have something?
Oh, just a couple of things. As far as athletics, in regards to how we're trying to reach back to our student athletes and the students on campus, you may have seen the yard before the game, a pregame hospitality event is for everyone. We do have a tent there where you can use for retention, academic services. I think you used it the first game of the season. Not sure if we utilized it since then, but that is open to you and is always available to anyone in here. We've also incorporated the Ask Me campaign in our customer service delivery to all patrons, to all of our events. We also have monthly meetings with student leaders, Greek societies, to talk about how we can better engage the students. We also heard the information on emails and text messaging will not work, so don't try it. So we have decided not to do that. We also learned that Facebook doesn't work as well. So there's other methods that they're using, I call them the underground methods that they're using to communicate with each other. And we're trying to figure out ways that we can implement that into our communication base with our students. Being that we are very event driven, we do need those students to be at the events, and so we're trying to figure out other ways we can incorporate them, keep them here on the weekends, during the weekdays, so they can have more of a student life. We know athletics plays a huge part in that, and so that's something that we're working on. So, thanks.
Outstanding, thanks Jay. Any comments for Jay? Jay?
Fantastic. Absolutely. I would love to be able to Ask Me banner.
I'll nominate Sean.
I think if you get Sean on the Ask Me banner, he'd be very happy. Absolutely.
Any questions for Jay?
I'm just going to ramble with what's running through my head right now. I'm thinking, are we looking into careers at companies we know kids get excited about, Google and Amazon, and researching careers of tomorrow, which, God knows there's careers now that we never heard of. And looking into those, asking what are the academic requirements that those companies are looking for, that those fields are looking for, going on to say, do we have those courses here? If not, should we develop them? Then market it to the students as being offered here. Also, is it just a matter of fine-tuning what we already have, so it's area of study, it's a minor, things like that. And then with you all talking about the app, I'm sitting here thinking, it'd be cool to have an app where you could put in your interests, your strengths, things like that, and it would come out with like a suggested career for you, and then it'd say, you should talk to blah, 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 and you could like send an instant email to set up an appointment. Okay, I know I'm thinking totally like, far-fetched. But yeah, so those are just things running through my head. Are we looking at anything like that?
I think that's an excellent question. I think in the College of Engineering, we have a continuous dialogue with the employers. They serve on our advisory boards, they come back as mentors, we have career fairs, they come and talk to our students. So we kind of understand what their expectations are. And I think for a student to let us know what companies they are interested in, we pursue internship with those companies. And if a student is interested, we'll reach out to that company, whether do a research project with them or have a project sponsored by them for our senior design project. So that's why our placement is almost near perfect. And our students appear to be very functional and practical. So I think we can have as many courses as we want to, but I think for us to understand what the industries are looking for, we have to be in a continuous dialogue with them and form a partnership with them. And regarding tools, we are also developing an app where we will be able to provide mentorship for our students through alums and corporate partners. They will be able to ask questions, they'll be able to seek internship assignments, and somebody in the industry, in the corporate world, will be able to answer their questions. So I think we are doing that. If it's successful, President Baker has said we can always expand it for other people to be included, and I think that is one way we can get to student career success on a 100% basis.
Another example of the triangle. So in engineering, with the rapidly changing technology and engineering worlds, they've got to be hooked into the world because it's spinning out there. And if we're not hooked in, we're not relevant. And so almost by definition, engineering has to work a triangle. And now they're putting the support services in the middle to tighten that up with mentoring and internships. So that's an outstanding example. Chris.
I was just mentioning to Lisa, yesterday was the internship fair, today was the career fair, both run by Career Services. We hosted an open house this afternoon for the employer representatives to meet with our department chairs to talk about exactly the questions you're asking. What are you looking for? Why are you here? If you're, what leads you to choose where you're at? We had some of the employer reps say, we hire NIU grads because they're hard workers. We've hired NIU grads and we liked them, and so we're back for more. But we had people also say, thank you for inviting to this. Nobody else has thought to ask us to come talk to them like this. So yeah, I completely agree with what Pramod said. The continuous feedback with the employer is what we have to be doing and what we're trying in different ways to do.
And just to build on that very briefly, that doesn't mean we sell our academic soul. That means we take that feedback, put it through our academic values, and then come out the other side with what we think is the important thing to do. And we do that. That's what, faculty are in charge of the curriculum, and we put it through that filter, and it comes out. Lisa.
I just wanted to add, and I apologize if I'm redundant because I did come in a little late due to another commitment, that our advisors and our faculty and many of us on campus are looking at trying to do exactly what you said by combining high touch, mixing with employers, having internships with high tech. And so part of the Educational Advisory Board Student Success Collaborative, which is an IT platform that we're approaching with new vigor and a different face out to students, has added a tremendous career piece that very much does exactly what you said. It adds potential careers, links them to courses, and actually based not only on your interests, but where you're succeeding versus not succeeding in classes, broadens the spectrum of jobs that you might think about, or careers that you might think about, or graduate school opportunities that you might think about based on your performance, your interests, and very much incorporating the jobs you know about, the jobs you don't know about, and the pathways you know and don't know about. I don't know, Vice Provost Birberick, if you'd like to add to that? Okay. So did you talk about the career piece of it? So I'm glad that I was able to add at least something new to the conversation.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. Who else? Oh, Brad's coming.
My former GA has a job at Google. So we got it covered. He was an OMIS grad student.
Yay.
And I just also want to add that one way we can kill two birds with one stone is internships abroad. We have them here at NIU.
That's a cool idea.
I have a suggestion. It kind of falls under the be careful what you ask for heading. There's a new database or website or chat room or whatever you want to call it. It's called Yik Yak, YIKYAK. That's where all of our students are going to complain about us. So somebody should look there. I'm just saying, maybe.
Yeah, got it. And they do other stuff there too. Yeah, interesting site. All right, who's next?
Our community also really values the retention of our students. It's very important to them as well. They work in our community, they live here, and I'm wondering if there are ways we're thinking about long-term as we as we manage all of the data collection, data variables of those on-campus points, if we're also thinking about ways that our community involvement of our student that data can come back, whether that be we have an emergency response situation where somebody may notice something's going on with a student as an employer, or we may have response from those who are interning. Boy, we're seeing some great things or we're seeing some challenging things. I have 3 GAs in my office right now that I've just completed all their mid-semester evaluations, and I noticed that may be an element of additional data we can collect and process down the road. And I know from personal experience with Kelly, earlier this semester, I was made aware of a student from one of our ministers in the community who said, boy, I've got someone who's in trouble, and I'm not sure who to call, and I want someone to reach out because I'm seeing something, and he's brand new to the community. And I called Kelly, and that was a way to help. But there may be other opportunities that we want to make our community members aware of, how they can share information about the students that they care so much about.
Really interesting. You know, this has all been us looking in and helping and working inside the triangle, but you've brought in the community in the world box and said, how do they access us more easily? It's a really good idea, whether it's a contract that we're trying to let, or whether it's them, they've got a student at their volunteer organization or whatever. Let's ponder that. Does anybody have an answer to that one? It seems like a good question, but one I don't have an immediate answer to. All right, let's put that on the ponder list. By the way, we have lists here from the 3 presenters with their titles, and if you had a great idea like that, put it up, or if you have a suggestion, or if you have a praise, or if you want to volunteer to be on a poster, you could put your name up. If you want to volunteer your best friend, you could do that too. Your former best friend.
In President Baker, we have the Ask Me buttons here available.
Where are
for anybody
they?
that doesn't have. They're in my chair.
Ah.
So I'll be waiting for people to exit. I'll pass them out to folks.
Okay, good. Ann said she left hers on her pajamas, or she would have had it here today, so. All right. John.
How are we tying the information that we're receiving on the retention to the recruitment of the next round of students and marketing?
The answer may be we're so early we're not, but Eric, do you want to take a shot at that? Is there information here that's helping us on what we tell recruits?
I think one of the major focuses for us is from the standpoint of parents and prospective students really want to know from the standpoint of, you know, what can you do for me while I'm at NIU? How can you help me to progress? And so some of these new initiatives that we're creating that are impacting retention, whether it's focusing on peer mentors, having alumni serve as mentors to our students, the focus on internships and having that hands-on experience, these are things that we're sharing with prospective students, because that retention, I think it's a real key from the standpoint of students not only being interested in NIU, but from the standpoint of what can I get involved with that will allow me to continue on with my education. And we also focus a lot on student engagement. And you all know and have heard from the standpoint, if a student is engaged, if they build relationships on campus, they're more likely to stay.
And I think the other aspect of using our successful students is to build an NIU pride in their heart and mind. And what we do is to use them as ambassadors to host students who are coming to our field trips, are coming to NIU to look at the facilities. And I think once they talk to these people, the connection is pretty superb, and I think we can expect these students coming into the classes.
And I'll add, it's an interesting question, John. For our traditional age students, for that student coming in as a first-year student, the family's still playing a huge role in helping the student through. Whether you're a first-gen student or not a first-gen student, it's a tough transition, and you need that support from the family. And so the more we engage the family as well as just the student, the better the ecosystem is, the social ecosystem. And some schools really try to reach out and continually update moms and dads about what's going on during the semester. Hey, there's a deadline coming up for a payment. Hey, there's midterms are coming up. You may want to check in on your kid. Are they showing any signs we need to know about? Is there any early warning you want to tell us about that we can help with? Are you hearing anything we need to know about? So we can probably do more of that reaching out. You know, that Blue World corner includes mom and dad. What do we need to do there?
And President Baker, I can follow up on that, on the marketing side, but also on the communications side, in that I know that's with first and second year experience, and then also with the orientation office, they now have communications going to parents at every cohort. So new students, second year, third year, and fourth year students, which is somewhat of a departure where we were covering all of them. So they're going specifically designed for those particular cohorts. And so that's a bit of a change. Also on the recruitment side, in orientation side, we're looking at now a 2-day orientation session as opposed to the single day, and then looking at possibly doing some community outreach. Jennifer, you and I are going to talk about that after this, and engaging the community to assist in those endeavors with parents who come in for that 2-day experience, actually showcasing the parents what great things our campus community and our local community have to offer. That's an exciting change in what we've been doing in the past.
Like I said, another suggestion I guess I will break out as far as making connections with some of our students. We have some, I'm going to call it low-hanging fruit. We have some events that happen on campus, like we had an open house a couple of weeks ago. We're going to have another one on Veterans Day that Monday. We have admitted student days here. And there's a number of us that are involved in those programs, you know, where you know, we have our people at tables and answering questions when students are here. I guess my question, I guess, getting away from the ask me, because an ask me is more or less like I still have to approach someone to be able to ask the question. How about if we actually be more proactive as far as saying, let me get out of my office for an hour and go to that event and just hang out and talk to people. You know, talk to the parents. Hi, how you doing? Welcome. My name is Dino Martinez. I'm in housing. You know, let me tell you a little bit about the university, why I like working here. Do you have any questions? And I think we can do that. But for some of us, that's going to require getting out of our comfort zones, getting out of our offices, walking to a place where there's a lot of people who are trying to figure out whether or not this is the place for either themselves or for their student. Some of the events are happening after hours. You know, some events happen after 4:30. Are we willing to make those type of personal sacrifices? I know our first admitted student day is actually happening on a Saturday. Can we come over and, you know, well, it's January 31st, so there's a lot of snow, so you either, once you're done shoveling, come on back, you know, and, you know, talk to some of the parents, talk to some of the people who are visiting. We have people visiting campus every single day. And what are we doing to be able to get out and just talk with those folks? But I think we can not only just wait for them to ask us the question, but we go over and introduce ourselves as well.
I think that's great advice. And when you do that and you form that relationship, it turns out to be kind of addictive. And you get a really positive buzz about it. And I'm walking over to Jennifer to put the microphone in her hand. Because last night we had an interesting place where we had that kind of dialogue and we reached out with the Unity Walk. Do you want to say a little bit about that and what you saw with the conversations where people were asked to go talk to people they didn't know?
Sure. There's probably some people who could speak better. Kelly Wesener really did a fabulous job of connecting our community. A huge round of applause to Kelly for that. This was an event where one of the faith-based pastors here in DeKalb saw a need and said, boy, I really want to get our community together and have a conversation reflecting on the challenges that have happened and continue to be facing Ferguson. And he engaged a conversation with both the DeKalb police officer or police chief and the NIU police chief and said, how can we get together? And I really want to do a walk. And so the evening really was an incredible moment where all different aspects of the community got together. It was a first-time event. And we also need to all learn how to get on the same calendar, because there were some other great events that same night that, boy, if we would have been able to coordinate. I know Kelly's shaking her head. We really wish we would have known so we could build on that. But the conversations that they suggested everyone do as they walked, about 75 people were there, many of you in the room. Reverend Mitchell said, don't walk with anyone you know at all. Walk with someone you don't know. Spend the time talking about not what we're different, but how we're the same. And it was so much fun for 1 mile to watch this group of 75 people constantly swerving and moving around saying, wait, I already know you. I need to talk and walk with you. And the stories that we all learned about each other were incredible. And it was, why do you live here? How long have you lived here? What brought you here? And people left encouraging sharing emails and phone numbers and business cards, and let's do this to get more and get together. And a lot of them said we need a meal afterwards because they really wanted to eat and talk more. So I think as we look at how we engage within all of our events at NIU and in the community, that concept of get to know you and understand what our perspective and what our stories are so incredibly important in all of aspects of what we're trying to accomplish.
And that's the building community part of our pillars. We've got to build that community on and off campus. And it just doesn't happen. You have to reach out and do it and get out of your comfort zone. Just the way we're asking our students to get out of their room and not watch TV and go do something and make those hookups. And that works. And then it's fun. So good, good idea. Who else? So part of this was to celebrate the great stuff that's going on. And we saw 3 great examples today. And that is kind of the tip of the iceberg. And we're going to do 4 more of these this year. But we've got so much momentum going on now, people thinking kind of about the triangle and how do we hook up students and faculty in the outside world and all of our support services inside. And in the process, how do we help our students get ready for their lives and their careers? And how do we help faculty do incredible research to transform the world? And how do we reach out to the world and share that information and help transform it ourselves? That's what the triangle's about. And we saw 3 great examples that are underway that are making an impact already in a short period of time. And I really want to thank all the people, the presenters today, and all the people with them that have done that work. It's making a difference. It's transforming lives. So thank you. And so as part of that celebration, we have students that are going to be that are playing music. We've heard a little bit about the door. We've heard a horn blowing. And Ellen, do you want to tell us more about that? And thank Ellen for putting this together.
As you know, this is the first in the series, so please mark your calendars. The next one will be December 4th. And I'd like you to bring a colleague, bring a friend, bring a student, see if we can fill this room, and we'll do it again. We've got entertainment going on in Ellington's, in the Gallery Lounge, and in the College Grind, as well as plenty of food. So please enjoy and thank the students that are playing. I'm sure they'd appreciate it for being here tonight as well to entertain you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ellen. All right, let's go have fun.